Okay, so here we go. Take our attempt at making a motor. This motor takes advantage of electric and magnetic fields. And so here we go. These are all the materials. I've got them here. I've got some wire. I've got some clippers, some tape, cup, a few paper clips, sandpaper, battery, another battery, Sharpie, and some magnets. So some safety stuff with this if you do decide to try it at home. You don't want to put these magnets anywhere near your phone or computer, because if you do, you can wipe out the screen. All right. So we need to take a piece of wire about 2 feet long. Okay. There we go. Got my wire. And I have to wind it into a coil. So I'm going to use the battery to help me do that. I'm going to leave a little bit at the end so that I've got end pieces. All right, so there's my coil. Just did that with the battery, and you can see there's some little like knots here. So I'm gonna go around till I get to the center point. I want to get as close to the center as you can. Otherwise, this is going to be really unbalanced. So I'll just start with one side here. I'm going to wrap it a couple of times. And so far, this is what I have. And then I want to do the same thing on the other side. And again, trying to really get it in the middle. And it's pretty close. Okay. Yeah, it says you want 2 inches from projecting from each side of the coil. Right now, I've got about 1.5 inches from each side, and that should be enough. Just barely. The deal is, it's got to be able to span the whole cup like that, and I'm just barely there. I think the screen was a little dirty. Okay. Next, so I'm using insulated wire. It's got this little coating of stuff on it, and so I'm going to put my wire on something and then just take the sandpaper, and I'm supposed to strip insulation off the ends. So basically I got to take all this red stuff, kind of orangey red copper colored stuff off of here. A couple passes with the sandpaper will do that. Just getting this down to bare metal. You may notice I have it here on this piece of tape, and that's so I don't scratch my table. Because if I scratch the table, the person who made it would be really sad, and that person is me and my dad. Super critical to get all the insulation off so that you get a good contact. Okay, and there you should be able to see that here it's a lot lighter, here it's darker. So this is where I took the insulation off, and then again over here about halfway. I got the insulation off. And that's where it's going to make contact with your paper clips. All right, next step, I'm going to use a marker and on half. All right, so I'm going to hold this in a vertical plane like this. And I'm going to color just the top half with the marker. Do the same thing on the other side. By doing this, it should insulate the metal and make it so that this is basically has a couple phases, an on and off phase to it. Okay, so I need some pieces of aluminum foil, and then I need a couple of paper clips. So let's get that. Foil. So you just need a thin strip of this. Oops. Thin strip. Now I'm just going to rip it in half. 2 thin strips. Okay. So we're going to turn. Okay. Let's go in order here. So I need to unfold. Basically do this. Okay. Turn it into the letter P. Do that twice. There we go. So I'm going to I'm wrapping the foil around here. You want to get a good contact. It says to tape it, but it's pretty hard to tape this. So if you just get good contact, you should be okay. You need to leave a lot so that you can connect these to the battery. So keep that in mind before you get too crazy. I didn't leave a lot with that last one. I'm going to try and leave more with this one. All right, so I've got these 2 things. Here we go. And next is turn the cup upside down. Oh, yeah, okay. So I'm going to tape. Oh, sorry. You don't want to see me. You want to see this. So I'm going to tape these on here. Got some tape. All right, so part of the deal here with the tape is you want to need to get this up high enough for it to sit in here and not hit the cup. So that's a little tricky. So I'm going to try and raise mine a bit. I think that'll work better. All right. So I'll do the same with the other one. So I'm going to move my foil up a bit. I'm trying to be on the opposite side. that should be pretty good. All right, so there you go. Multiple dimensions. Okay, so now I'm on step 8. I'm going to put one magnet over the center of the bottom of the cup and then hold it in place. So I've just done this. And then I'm going to go inside. And now I got a magnet inside. They'll just keep themselves there. No problem. So this is going to make a really strong magnetic field. And now I'm going to take my buddy here. Okay. So I'm making my first discovery here. I've put this inside, and I'm noticing that because it angles in a bit, right? The cup is it's kind of like a cone shape. I didn't sand off enough of the enamel, so I got it. And now I dropped it. So I gotta do some more of that. Back to sanding, which means I'm probably gonna have to redo the what do you call it? Sharpie again. Yeah. Okay. Well, all clean. Let's do the Sharpie again. There we go. Try not to touch the Sharpie after you put it on there because you'll wipe it off. Okay, so I will put this guy back in here. And you'll see that it's gonna take some work to get this thing to sit right. You want to get as level as possible. And as you can see, my coil isn't perfect. I probably just messed it up more. But getting these to be equal, these two P's to be equal height is a really big deal. Okay, so I've done 10. I've rested them in there. It's pretty well balanced. It spins pretty freely. And again, you can check that by just going like this. Okay. So it says we're going to do battery touching. So let's go with this one. If you do this, oh, you can't see. All right. So I managed to sit that end on the battery. This end is too short. So I'm going to make it a bit longer. I don't know if you can see, but it's doing something. It keeps trying to go backwards here. So it's definitely feeling a field. Let's try a slightly stronger battery. So some of my Sharpie wore off. So let's try again. Well, we're close. As you can see, it's just going back and forth on its own. All right, there we go. Well, got it to work. Pretty cool. So, this is kind of challenging, and there's some tips here for what to do if you are having a hard time. And but yeah, eventually, if with a little bit of perseverance, it works. I tried a more fully charged battery, and that works pretty well. So try it out, explore. What do you think's going on there? Why do you think that works? What is the current doing when it flows through here? Right? When it flows through, this is essentially your wire. Hey, babe. Okay, mommy's right there. So we've got current flowing through the wire, flowing through the paperclip, and then flowing into our coil, but only sometimes. Right? That's what the Sharpie's on there for. So sometimes the current flows, and when the current flows, it makes a magnetic field. Right? Well, there's already a magnetic field here, right? So sometimes when the current flows through here, it makes the electrons spin. That makes a magnetic field. That only happens sometimes, right? When we flip this over like this, the marker is in the way of the beautiful. The marker gets in the way of the electrons, and the flow stops just temporarily, and then it starts again. So when it stops and starts, that acts like a little push. And that is like what happens when you take two magnets and you do this. All right. So if I try to do this, they resist each other. Right? They're pushing against. I can't even, I guess I can. But they resist each other. And so when the field is on, that happens. When it's off, then there's nothing. And so you go from this push to nothing and then push to nothing. And so you get these alternating cycles of force and no force. And that's what causes it to spin. Right now, there'd be a force. Now, since the marker's touching, there'd be no force. Now a force, now no force. And basically you can think of them like little pulses. Push, 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 push. Think of it like pushing somebody on a swing. Kind of like that. Right? And, or hitting a tetherball. Right? You hit it, comes around. You hit it again, comes around. You hit it again. It's kind of like that. That's kind of what's going on. So, cool stuff. In really simple terms, this is how electric motors work, and I'll show you a more advanced one in a moment. So this is a bigger version of what we just made. This is a motor. You can even see it's a lot of magnets inside. It's really attracting that screw. This is a motor that's for like an RC airplane. And this would fly around about a 10-pound, 12-pound plane. Pretty big. Something with a wingspan 6 or 7 feet, maybe even a little bit bigger, but pretty large. All right, so what's inside there? Well, so here's what's inside. This is what it looks like. You can see that there's 3 wires. And this is so that there's actually, instead of 2 phases like we had with ours, there's 3. All right. So 3 cycles of on, off. It makes it easier to start. And so each cycle or each phase alternates a bit, but you can see that there are these little silver things around the outside. Those are magnets. All right. So that makes our magnetic field, just like we had. And then we've got all these coils of wire. You can see there, it looks like there's about 9 of them. And so those get, oh, right, there's 9 because there's 3 for each wire. And so when the energy flows through there, it alternates, and that pushes on the magnets, and the magnets are directly connected to the what's called the bell housing of this, and that is directly connected to a motor shaft. You put a propeller on here, and so those forces cause this thing to spin, and then they apply that force to the propeller, and there it goes. So this application of this, and even more common applications for you would be any kind of fan that's in your house, right? Like a fan just to cool you off, a fan like that one up there, a fan in your air conditioner that blows the air. If you have an electric vehicle with electric motors in it, the motors look like this, just way bigger and usually enclosed in something so they don't get dirty. But yeah, these things are all over the place. And you saw how simple it is. So, just making it more efficient and is the name of the game. But pretty cool thing. Magnets, some energy, some way to alternate the on off. And that's how electric motors work. So, hope you enjoyed, and hope the finals are going well.